Let me read to you a little piece from this book, Creating a Life That Matters. On page 192, speaking of the jungle of dating, let me read you this little piece. When dating, you need to know that to succeed, you have to be totally selfish rather than self-effacing. You don't need to worry about what kind of impression you're making on him or her. You're not there to make an impression. You're not there to win him over. You're not even there to show her a good time. You're there to check him out, period. So don't wear a mask. Don't overdress. Don't put on a show. Don't go to extraordinary lengths trying to impress. Don't even wonder what he thinks of you or she thinks of you. Don't do his thinking for him. Your attitude should be that if he doesn't like what he sees or hears, he can go home. This is a very maybe confusing or puzzling part of the dating marriage process. Because to get married is, of course, the objective, the purpose. When you're married, you have to be selfless to a great degree. But the dating is the exact opposite. When you're dating, making a decision as to who to marry, you have to be completely selfish. And we very often get it confused. People in the dating process are very generous, very kind, very thoughtful, very considerate, trying to make a good impression. And once they're married, they stop trying. They become selfish. That's exactly backwards. The dating has to be selfish because you're dating for only one reason: to make sure that you can marry this person. If you're not marrying the person, then this person means nothing to you. A date is not a relationship. Even if you're dating for a year, it's not a relationship. It's like an anti-relationship. Dating means we're making no commitment. And yet you get so committed. It's like cheating on a boyfriend. Unforgivable. Cheating on a girlfriend. The lowest form of life. But there is no relationship. You're not cheating on anything. What can we compare this to? If you know the story in the Torah, before the Jews enter the Promised Land, they suggest sending spies, or at least checking out the land. They send the spies come back and say, we cannot capture this land, they're too strong, they're too big, the cities are too fortified, and it was a terrible sin. And as a result, they spent 40 years wandering in the desert, when they could have entered Israel 40 years earlier. Now, was it a good idea to send those spies, or wasn't it? If you contrast the spies that Moshe sent to the spies that Joshua sent, that Yehoshua sent. The spies that Yehoshua sent were hiding. They were in danger. And when they were discovered, they had to run for their lives and hide in the fields, in the hills. The spies that Moshe sent did no such thing. They went literally as tourists. They were not spying militarily. They were checking out the land so that they could come back and tell the people how wonderful it will be to live there. That was their job. They were travel agents. Their big mistake was they came back and decided whether the Jews should go or not, which was not their job at all. So was there something valuable, something we can learn from the idea of sending those kinds of spies? There must be, since Torah tells us the story. The Rebbe explains it this way. When God gives us a commandment, well, you gotta do the commandment. It's his mitzvah, you gotta do his mitzvah. No questions, no conditions. He says, we do. But sending spies kind of suggests that before you do the mitzvah, you kind of spy it out. You check it out. Not because you're trying to decide whether you're going to do the mitzvah. That was the mistake they made. Their job was never to decide, to even question whether it should be done. If it's a mitzvah, then it should be done. But that's really not the best way to do the mitzvah. The best way to do the mitzvah is knowing that you're going to do it without any question, without any doubt. You have to make it a little more personal. Check it out and see how it suits you, how it fits you, how you can adjust yourself to the mitzvah, not the mitzvah to you. So you need to be a little more selfish. Make it personal. Bring yourself to the mitzvah. That's what dating is. Of course, I'm going to get married, but I have to marry with a plan, with a vision. I have to bring myself to it, which is a little selfish. I'm not just being obedient. I gotta figure out what's going to give me the hardest time. What part of it will be challenging? What part of it will be rewarding? What part of it will be pleasurable? So I have to enter the mitzvah, which I, of course, will do unconditionally, but I have to enter the mitzvah seeing myself belonging there, adjusted to it, in tune with it. So this combination, absolute devotion, unquestioned, unconditional devotion, what God wants, I will do. But I can do it in a shallow way. I could do it in a profound way. I can do it with absolute innocent sincerity, which is beautiful. Or I can make it really personal, thoughtful. What is thought? What would be a thoughtful way to do a mitzvah? Before you actually do it, see yourself in that light. It's like you don't become a Shabbos observer. You don't give yourself that title because it's totally unnecessary. It's one of the mitzvahs, and you're a Jew and you're committed to God, so you keep Shabbos. But before you actually start keeping Shabbos, you picture yourself as a Shabbos observant person. This is the new me. I belong there. I fit. I'm not uncomfortable. It's not awkward for me. Yes, I am Shabbosdik. I can see myself. That's called thoughtful. Let's go back to the dating. dating has become a lifestyle in and of itself. It's like an alternative to marriage. It's a semi-marriage. It's a kind of arrangement where you're not alone. In some ways, it's easier than marriage, more convenient, less expensive. But it's a trap. The better the dating, the more alone you become. If the dating is going well, it's all working, it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's pleasant, and you're becoming more and more alone. Just, very, very logically. What is the difference between dating and marriage? What's the difference between living with somebody or being married to somebody? Well, the obvious difference is when you're dating, you're still just you. You haven't bonded with somebody else. I mean, if you're bonded, you might as well be married. In fact, emotionally, you may be married. So you're not dating anymore. You're married emotionally. If this should end, you will be as traumatized as a divorced person, no less, because you have become emotionally bonded. So, what was the point of not getting married? Save money on a wedding? For all practical purposes, you are married. So, not getting married because you want to continue dating means I want to remain me. That's also known as alone. So, people who date successfully are having a very comfortable lifestyle, but they are alone in the world. Now, what happens if they decide to get married? It's going so well, we're living together already anyway, and your mother is on your case about getting married, so you get married. You are still alone because you're still in the dating mode. And you can't seem to make that switch. And that's why we are suffering from such a terrible aloneness in a generation when there is no reason for it. We are so free, we're so open, we're so in touch and connected with the big world and with everybody in the world. Of all the generations of history, we should not be alone, but we are. In the best of dating and living in arrangements, you are alone. And then it carries over into the marriage, where even when you're successfully married, you're still alone. Same is true with Judaism. You can be a totally observant Jew, keeping all the commandments, and it's really good, and you love it, and it's wonderful. And you're totally alone. You have no relationship with God at all. People who are considering keeping Shabbos or starting to keep kosher, they have more of a relationship with God than the person who's completely observant. Because the reason the person considers keeping kosher is not for religious reasons. He's not religious. Why would he want to keep kosher? He's not religious. Why would he want to start keeping Shabbat? You say, well, because he's becoming religious. No, he's not. He's not becoming religious. That's not what he's thinking. It's not what he wants. It's not what she wants. They're considering keeping kosher because they're Jewish. And a Jew has some kind of a relationship with God, and that relationship has been empty, ignored, neglected, and it shouldn't be. So they're really getting closer to God and therefore want to keep his Shabbos. They have more of a relationship with God than a person who's been keeping Shabbos all his life. Like a person who is happily married, but completely alone in the world. So when you enter into a more observant lifestyle, you do it thoughtfully, you spy it out. You adjust yourself to it so that it's not awkward. You're not doing something foreign that doesn't suit you or fit you or feel comfortable to you. You adjust yourself to where it does feel comfortable. Before you even start keeping Shabbos, you see yourself as Shabbosdik, which is also a good suggestion concerning marriage. There are people who are a little gun shy when it comes to making the big decision. To go from being me to being we can be pretty scary. Because when you become we, all the selfishness has got to go. And as much as you want to be married, it's a little intimidating to think of that drastic change. One of the solutions, one of the good suggestions is stop worrying about the transition. See yourself already past the transition. I'll give you a good example from martial arts. You know those people who can split a brick with their hands? Or a block of wood? The secret to not breaking your hand is all in the mind. You've got this brick sitting there in front of you, and you're supposed to break it by hitting the brick with your hand. If you're thinking, I am going to hit that brick with all my might, what you're going to do is destroy your hand, because the brick is tougher than your hand. So the harder you hit it, the more you're going to hurt yourself. So what's the secret? The secret is, in your mind, you do not see yourself hitting the brick. You see your hand going past the brick to whatever is there on the other side of the brick. You're not aiming for the brick, you're aiming for what is behind or under the brick. You're going past it, not into it. So if you're thinking of hitting the brick, you're going to hurt yourself very badly. If you see the brick as only a passing gateway to what is beyond the brick, then the brick will surrender. That's an important lesson in life in general. Don't attack a problem. See yourself moving past it to what lies on the other side. That's called thinking positive. Don't think of the impact. Think yourself past the impact, and then the impact won't hurt. So instead of agonizing, how do I decide? How do I decide? You've already decided, because you're headed, your destination, your goal is to be married, not to get married. So the question of how do I get married, you're hitting your head against a brick wall. Put yourself beyond. Very practically, somebody suggested to a woman who was having a very hard time. She liked the guy, they were committed to getting married, but she was agonizing, keeping her awake at night, and the suggestion that she was given was sit down and write Mrs. whatever the husband's name, Mrs. Berkowitz. Write it often. Fill a page. Mrs. Berkowitz, Mrs. Berkowitz. You're already a Mrs. Berkowitz. It helped a lot. See yourself choosing a sofa for your living room. Not before you move in, after you've moved in. See yourself already married. Put yourself past the roadblock mentally. The same is true with the mitzvah. How in the world am I going to start keeping Shabbat? My family doesn't do it. How am I going to explain it? What am I going to say? What if I forget to buy something and I need to buy it and it's Shabbos? And don't agonize. You are a Shabbos observant Jew. People have been doing it for thousands of years. You're doing it too. You're doing it, not you're going to do it. That's called spying it out. Try it on. Fit it to yourself or yourself to it. See yourself there makes it a lot easier. So, dating is selfish. You're only there to check out the partner or the potential partner. If you like what you see, there's something to talk about. You don't like what you see, there's nothing to talk about. And it doesn't matter what the other person is thinking or saying. You're there for your own well-being. After you get married, you'll have plenty of opportunity to be extremely thoughtful, extremely considerate, extremely polite, extremely selfless. Then the marriage will be wonderful. One idea from the book, but the book has a whole bunch of ideas because it's meant to be a manual or a reference book for all the big issues in life. So if you already have it, enjoy it. If you don't have it yet, it's available. It's available. Amazon, bookstores, it's there. So enjoy.